show everyone's talking about. It's called On Air with Russell of Hotel. As you can see, we got a guest today. Let me make sure I got him on my left and right. Mr. Calvin Tilokee. He's been a little silly here, but that's good. I like that. I like that. But hey, is it possible, Calvin, the one I got you here, can you either raise up a little bit, or I don't know if your chair will raise up a little bit, just so I guess maybe our. Okay. I can tell this is gonna be one of those shows, but no, let me move over a little bit so that way we're a little bit more even, symmetrical, I guess. But hey, today is show number 252. It's Tuesday. What is the date? Today is Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. And like I said, it's show number 252. Our guest today is going to be Mr. Calvin Tilokee, CEO of Redpar Media. So right now, this is just basically the intro part, or the monologue, if you will. So Calvin, of course, he's muted at the moment. So I'm just gonna, talk a little bit. Then we're gonna do the intro. Then we're gonna come back and do the show. So, but I want to make sure I do the monologue, because I want to make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to work. So I want to make sure that you guys have access, meaning you guys can make comments. So I want to make sure that that is on as well. So let me okay. Comments are on, so feel free to make your comments, because it's all about interaction, okay, engagement. If you have questions, if you just want to say hello to Calvin, you want to say hey to me, or like, what the hell you guys doing? You guys look like clowns. I don't care whatever you have to say, go ahead and say it. But we're going to get into it in a couple of minutes. We're going to talk about, Redpar Media. We're going to talk about Calvin, how he got started in this industry. I'm going to ask that question to everybody, that burning question that everybody wants to know. I'm not going to tell you what it is now, but it's a burning question everybody wants to know. I bet Calvin doesn't even know this question that people want to know. So, but anyway, we're going to put you on hold for a couple minutes. I'm going to hit 3 buttons, and we're going to start the intro, and then we're going to come back and start the show. So hang tight. You hang tight, Calvin, as well, and then we'll get it started. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to On Air with Russell of Hotels, where we talk about everything hospitality, from hotels to influencers and everything in between. We will feature guest interviews with hospitality professionals who will share their experiences. Your host, Russell Edmond, has spent over 25 years in the hospitality industry, beginning his career with Marriott International in hotel operations, before moving into the sales arena and becoming a relationship-building director of sales and marketing. Russell then went to the other side as a hospitality entrepreneur. He now consults in the hotel and meeting space, which includes being the CEO of Russell of Hotels Group. Did I mention he was a veggie foodie? Yes, Russell is always looking for good non-meat eats. Please welcome your host, Russell Edmond.
Hey, we're back. Thank you guys so much again for joining us for On Air with Russell of Hotels, that live hospitality talk show that everyone's talking about. Appreciate you guys. We got Mr. Calvin Tilokee here. He's going to be our guest. We're going to have a conversation. It's not going to be an interview, right? Because some people are like, oh, who are you interviewing today? No, Calvin got a job and I got a job. So I ain't interviewing him and he ain't interviewing me. So it's going to be a conversation between two people, two friends, okay? Now, real quick, I'm giving you like a little background on how I met Calvin, right? So first and foremost, it was on, I think, LinkedIn, right? I mean, I think that's how we kind of knew who each other were, came across each other. But then we had met in person a little bit over a year ago at the Click Conference, which Craig Sullivan puts on, clickconference.com. You want to check that out. So I got invited last year to go, and I met Calvin. Okay, so we had a couple minute conversation, and you always leave the conversation by you end the conversation by saying, "Hey, we need to get together," that kind of thing, whatever. So over a year goes by, we don't get together, and I see him again at the Click conference the following year, right? And then once again, we start, but the conversation was longer this time, and we had another gentleman involved in this conversation who was Bruce Jordan, the MJ of hotel. So, but this time, we left and we kind of like, hey, let's get together for lunch, blah, 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 blah. Okay, all right. And then like maybe a week later, Calvin calls me or texts me and says, hey, you free? It was like April the 4th. I remember the date, April 4th. He texts me and said, hey, let's get together. How's your Monday? And I said, I think it works okay. And we kind of, went back and forth on a place to meet, but we found a place to meet and we met. And it was like 4 days later. So I think we met on the 4th or on the 8th. And I bought, okay, so I did buy the lunch, okay, just so everybody knows. So yeah, so we know for the record that it's his time to buy next time, okay. So I wanted that on the record here, but but no, we met and we talked, and we just talked about the industry that we're in, how we got in, and that kind of stuff, and what we're trying to do with our platforms and our businesses and things like that. And it was just, to me, it was a great experience just to hear him, to see where he came from and all the stuff that he's doing now in the industry. And, and he threw out some tips for me as well. And I appreciate that. So, and I said, hey, well, you need to come on the show. And then he's like, well, I'm going to Europe now. So, whenever I get back, whatever, that's what he said. He's going to like, I'm out to Europe tomorrow. I'm like, what? Tomorrow? Why are you having lunch with me today then? But anyway, no, it was a great conversation, and we're going to extend the conversation today. But I'm before I have him unmute his microphone, I'm going to read his bio. It's a brief one too. A lot of times I, read bios and it's like a damn book. I'm like, what is all this stuff? But anyway, no, let me real quick. Calvin is a seasoned hospitality expert with over 2 decades of experience in the dynamic fields of revenue management and social media marketing. With a passion for creating memorable guest experiences and a knack for harnessing the power of digital platforms, Calvin has had the privilege of shaping the future of the industry. Calvin's journey in hospitality has been marked by achievements and recognition. He has been honored as an award-winning Instagram creator known for capturing the essence of hospitality through comedic content and engaging storytelling. Additionally, Calvin has earned a spot among the top 25 social media influencers in the hospitality sector, as well as a place on the list of the top 100 most inspiring people in hospitality, an accolade presented by the prestigious International Hospitality Institute. Currently, Calvin serves as CEO of RevPar Media, a dynamic social media marketing agency exclusively dedicated to helping hospitality businesses thrive in the digital landscape. We specialize in crafting strategic and compelling social media campaigns that drive brand awareness, engagement, and ultimately revenue growth. So without further ado, we're going to welcome to the stage. You can unmute your microphone, sir, Mr. Calvin Tilokee.
Hello.
So how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. While you were doing that wonderful intro, I don't even know who you were talking about. That guy sounds pretty awesome. Hopefully I can live up to what you just read there. I'm letting my Instagram audience know that we're live right now. So I was trying to squeeze it in before you were finished, but I didn't. But here we go. Done. So now Instagram's going to know that we're live, and I'm here kicking it with Russell of Hotels, the vegan hospitality master. And I'm looking forward to it, man. We had a good time at lunch, and looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Yes, sir. No, but thank you so much. I appreciate. This has been a long time coming. You coming on the show, and it's funny how I got responses yesterday because I sent out like a promo that we were going to be on here together. Yesterday, I sent out the promo, and I was getting these messages. One from Bruce Jordan, like it's about time. That was his response. It's about time. Not great. Oh, this is going to be good. I'll be glad to see it. It's about time. So
Right, right.
no, he's right. He's right. It is about time we had you all here. So I'm glad you were able to come on. There was another. Oh, I just have to say this. Okay, so normally when I do a post on Instagram, at the most I'll get maybe 600. It reached 600 people, whatever, that kind of thing. This thing doubled. Okay, I got over like 1,500 responses or 1,500 likes or views or whatever. So that's not normal. So to me that was viral, okay? Because normally I don't get that many responses. It's probably higher now, but that's what it was maybe about 2 hours ago.
Right.
So I'm like, damn. So okay, there's something to this. As I said, it's either the music or it's Calvin, because it's definitely not me. So I guess maybe it's
listen. That music was good. I had it in my head for the rest of the afternoon after I saw it yesterday. It was pretty catchy.
Okay. So hold on to that. Hold on to that thought. Okay, now this is the burning question. So I have to ask this burning question before I can get into any other questions, right?
Okay.
And this, like I said, this is all a conversation. It's not an interview or anything like that. So
that's all good.
With that being said, did you choose hospitality or did hospitality choose you?
Oh, that's I'm gonna give you one of those, philosophical answers when I tell you it's probably a little bit of both. It's probably a little bit of both. For those who don't know, my family is from the Caribbean. So my parents are both from Trinidad, and I've had a passport since I was about a year old. So travel has always been a big part of my life. We'd spend the entire summers, and I say we, my brother and I, once he came along, we'd spend the summers with our family in Trinidad. I still have a lot of extended family there. So learning that culture, learning, the culture of my heritage and my extended family, that continued all the way up until college age, pretty much. And with that as well, we traveled through other islands in the Caribbean, St. Martin, and some of these other places. So I've always been big on hospitality and on travel. And once I got to about the age of 12, we were staying at a resort in St. Martin. And so when you're 12 years old, you're not young, but you're not old enough to do anything cool, So basically you're just a free babysitter for your parents when you're 12. So my job at that point was, hey, we're gonna go to the casino, so you stay here and watch your brother, And my brother is 6 years younger than me, so it's me and him, and it's like, well, what do we do? We can go to the beach, but there was like nothing for kids to do per se. And I remember when my dad came back, I was telling him about it. I was like, he's like, oh, what'd you guys do? I'm like, we chilled in the room because there's nothing to do really. We hang by the pool for a while, but it got boring. And it's like, it's nothing for kids to do. And then he asked me a question that I don't think he realized the impact that it had, because he said to me, well, what would you do differently at this resort? And at the age of 12, it started my mind thinking. And I actually answered him. I remember telling him a few things. And ever since then, I started looking at hotels and resorts from that perspective. What would I do differently? What makes this place nice? What would I change? And when I went to college, I went to the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. So HBCU on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. And we had a great hospitality program there. And had a lot of friends in the major, and I went into it. After my first semester trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I made some friends that were doing it. And the more they talked about it, I said, that sounds like what I like. That sounds like what I would want to do. So I switched majors and I went into it. And, as they say, the rest is history. I got my bachelor's in hospitality. I was fortunate enough to get a job at a Hilton right out of school as a reservations manager, and just kind of progressed from there. I did that for a while. I worked in restaurants. I worked for Gordon Ramsay for a couple of years, opening his first restaurant in the States, which was in New York City at that point. Then got back into hotels, figured out revenue management, loved it, and built a career from there. So it's a little bit of both. You know, the travel bug and has always been in me. You know, it's just something I've always done. But once I got to the point of, hey, I need to choose a career and what I want to do, I did choose hospitality. And fortunately, unlike a lot of people, we're not all lucky to get a job in hospitality right away when you graduate. And some people weren't able to do that because you got to work, right? So they get jobs doing something else and they just maybe never make it into the industry. I was fortunate to have that opportunity and was able to build a nice long career from there. And this is, I want to date myself. Well, you know, everybody could tell them, well, you can see the gray. This is, you know, I graduated in 2001. So this is years, you know, that
wow.
I'm in. This is years.
That's
I'm in this
my
industry.
God. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear all that.
So, man, there was no such thing as a live video when I was in school. You know what I mean? You used to have to sign up to use a computer in a lab. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm going to the computer lab. Let me go do my homework. You know, sign in and sign out. You know, so you kids don't know how good you have it.
Exactly. No, I can understand that. Maybe I'm a couple years older than you, so yeah, I understand that as well. So what was your favorite job in hotels?
Favorite job in hotels? It would definitely have to be. It's hard to say. I mean, I definitely have to do revenue management. It's I don't know if I have to pick a specific hotel. But yeah, definitely once I got into revenue management was where my career really took off because I figured out something that I liked and that I was good at. It made sense to me. The funny part of that is that first Hilton that I worked at, that was the last job that I said that I wanted. So as the reservations manager, I had interned at that hotel the last summer before I graduated. I graduated in December. So I interned at that hotel, worked at the front desk. So when I got the job in December/January, as the reservations manager, my office was literally right behind the front desk. So it was like front desk, PBX, and then me. And there was the same staff from the summer. So anytime something would happen at the front desk, they just come to me. So I was like a de facto front office supervisor / reservations manager. And the lady that hired me got a new job at the big New York Hilton within like 2 weeks. So I was left without any guidance for a while until they hired a new dorm. And this guy was the most miserable human being you could ever want to meet. I was super excited because I like to learn. So I was like waiting for him to come in. I'm like, I'm going to learn so much and like, you know, progress my career. This guy couldn't be bothered with me or anything. And he just was miserable all the time. I don't think I saw him crack a smile once in 4 years, you know? And I was like, that job sucks. There's no way I'm doing that. Yeah, I was like, should I go into sales? Should I go into operations? You know, all of these different things. And that's why I eventually tried my hand at the restaurant side. Like maybe the restaurant side is more for me. I work for Gordon Ramsay. And it wasn't until I got back into hotels that I worked for a different revenue manager, a different dorm. And she was more of a teacher. And she started to show me how it worked. And she explained it to me as a puzzle. And that it clicked in my head. She's like, there's all these different pieces and we've got to put it together to make a strategy and profitability possible. And once she said it to me like that, I was like, that makes sense. Because I never thought I was good at math. So I did kind of like, maybe I'm just not cut out for that. But when I looked at it from more strategic standpoint, it was like, okay, yeah, I know strategy. I'm good at strategy. I like that. And that's really where my career took off. I mean, if I had to pick one, it'd be hard to pick one hotel because they all present so many different challenges. And if any of my former coworkers are listening, they're like, you better pick the one where I was at with you, you know. Uh, so, I mean, it's hard to look past my first role. So my first role was I was at the Renaissance Westchester, which unfortunately no longer exists after COVID. Um,
Mm.
but that was my first role as a director of revenue. Really cut my teeth there. I walked into that hotel months before renovation and
Mm.
2 months before Hurricane Sandy.
Oh
So,
wow.
and that affected the entire East Coast. I mean, talk about first time working at a Marriott. So it was, Marsha and all of these different systems. And I got good at Marsha real quick because we would have these violent swings of inventory during the hurricane. It's like you walk in, you're 80
Mm.
rooms oversold. By lunch, you're 70 rooms to sell. And it was like, okay, updating inventory constantly, NMQ, and then open it up. And then I learned Marsha real well, real quick.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
and then we went
Wow.
into a renovation.
Okay.
So, and then it was dealing with all of that. But I was there for almost 3 years, and learned a lot. Obviously, met some great people there, and really learned how to do revenue.
Okay. Now, how would you? Okay. How long? Okay. Were you there as a? You were a dorm. You're actually a dorm.
Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
How long were you there before? And when did you get the bug to say, you know what, I want to start my own thing?
Mm.
Was it quickly after that? Was it some years? Did you see that a lot of hotels were missing the point on or missing this revenue? You know, how to maximize the revenue making potential of a hotel, or did you just fall into that and just said, okay, I'm a, start my own thing? How did that come
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, so that was I actually started my own thing. It was about 8 years after that. So that was around 2012 when I was the dorm at that hotel. Funny enough, that's about when I started making memes. So this was before we had apps and all of this stuff to make them really. So there was a couple sites online with the same standard templates that everybody knew. Um, that ain't nobody got time for that. You had that one, you had Bad Luck Brian, you had it was like 10 memes that was going around everywhere, and people would just constantly, make different situations over the same picture. But you used to have to go online and make them, and then I would print them out and put them on, my door. So if like somebody did something, usually it's sales because revenue and sales, they give me the most content, you know
Mm.
and I'd just be messing with my salespeople that week. They say something silly, I make a meme. That's the meme for the week on my door. So that's kind of how that started, and then maybe 6 years later, I started doing some like consulting on the side for a few companies, mostly B2B hospitality companies that needed help with LinkedIn and that kind of stuff. So I started helping with that sort of content and creation and strategizing. But this RefPar Media went full steam ahead in 2020. Now, what inspired it was the hotel I was working at around 2019 was a boutique property. So I'd gotten into the independent side, and I worked firsthand with social media agencies, PR companies. And one of the first things that happened when I worked at this hotel was they were doing a photo shoot for Game of Thrones. So we were turning one of our suites into like a Game of Thrones medieval looking concept. And I'm in this PR meeting. This might have been a week or two after I started. And the conversation was just around taking these pictures and how we were going to push it out to the New York Times and all these different outlets. So I asked, being the revenue person, how much are we charging for the suite? And I got no answers. And I was like, guys, we've got to do something with this. This is the biggest show on the planet. It's the last season, and it comes on a Sunday. On a Sunday, that hotel ran about 72% occupancy. So these rooms are going to just run empty. So now it's the operational piece. As long as we can set this up every week, because marketing is great, but then there's the reality of, can you pull stuff off, right? It's we come up with a lot of ideas, but executing them is harder because there's a lot of hoops. But fortunately, we had a great team at that property, and we were able to pull it off. So we coordinated with the F&B, and every week we set up these suites, 2 suites every week. We had the goblets of wine, the huge turkey legs, and all of the stuff. And the people would rent the room, sit and watch a show every Sunday night, 2 of them. And we made about $18,000 in revenue from throughout the course of the season. And that's revenue that we wouldn't have made if we didn't turn that into a package. But on the other hand, we wouldn't have made that revenue if the PR wasn't so great, because this went out everywhere. Our GM got interviewed maybe 5 different times about this suite because it was on the news, it was on ABC. So that to me just really showed how you take a great idea, a great marketing idea, and put some revenue behind it, and you can really just maximize these things. And then on the social media side, we had some challenges with our engagement. As being a creator, at this point, I was well into my Instagram ref problems, and creating every day and learning the analytics and engagement and what is strong and what isn't. And we had some opportunities on the engagement side on our Instagram page, and just looking at what we were doing there, I said, there's an opportunity for me, because the biggest issue is the social media agencies don't really understand the day-to-day needs of a hotel and how to strategize content around that, where we're constantly talking about seasonality and looking 30, 60, 90 days ahead, and what type of rooms are we going to sell in the summer. Any revenue manager, or most people in a hotel, are going to know, hey, summertime, you're going to sell more of your double-bedded rooms. Families are traveling. Obviously, the market dependent, but most markets work that way. You don't want to start promoting those in July. People have already booked, right? People are booking, or at least knowing when your booking window is. If your booking window is 30, 60 days ahead, you want to start putting that on your Instagram pages, showcase those rooms now. Mm-hmm. So the people that are looking to book your hotel 3 months from now, 2 months from now, are seeing it. They'll say, oh, wow, that suite is huge. Maybe that will work for our family. Or, you know what, that pool does look nice. And those, and just having that understanding, a lot of the agencies is really just, let's put some great pictures out. We're going to put them out consistently, and we'll put them out 3 days a week. And that's great. It's a good starting point. But we take it to that level. We take it to the level of how is what our content, how is that going to help the hotel from a financial basis? Our goal is, when we get your audience excited about what we're putting on the page, they're going to click that link and book and go visit your website and book a room, and book the room that we just showed them what it looks like. That's where the missing piece was for me. And that's really when I took it full steam during the pandemic. I got furloughed just like everybody else here watching. And it was already a dream in my head. And I said, well, I've got nothing but time now, right? There's no revenue to manage. There's no people at hotels. My hotel's closed. I said, I got nothing but time. So let's get this off the ground. And the first few years I spent working with a lot of LinkedIn, because, hotels were cutting budgets everywhere. But B2B was still going pretty strong. People were still using that as an opportunity. Hey, I want to get in front of hotels. And I worked with revenue management companies, software companies that were looking to sell into hotels. And then as things started to come back, we've been able to get actual hotel clients. So we've got a few hotels across the country now that we help with social media. And that's really how it came about.
Wow. That's an interesting story. And, the most interesting part of it is that you as a dorm was doing the social media, because that's not a normal thing. The dorm is just basically focused on revenue management. They don't want to be bothered, with anything, let alone social media, right? So,
right.
Yeah,
right?
so that's unique because I'm just going back and as you're telling the story, I'm just going back to my last several experiences as a director of sales and marketing, and that was the first thing from any dorm that I work with in mine. They're like,
Yeah,
focusing on, 30, 60, 90 days out, and that was it, right? Or trying
that's
to
it.
give
Yeah,
rates that were
yeah,
too damn high. I'm like, the rate's too high. I mean, we're trying to get this group. I mean, we need this group now. That
yeah.
kind of
We
thing.
got to
So
hit budget. Yeah,
exactly, exactly, exactly. So
yeah.
okay, so you always been not well, maybe not always, but it was the social media. Did the social media piece come in because you kind of related that to revenue management, or you saw them? That was the missing piece, right? That was the missing piece that maybe the sales was missing out on, or marketing was missing out on, the social media piece. How did that kind of work with you or work for you?
Yeah, yeah, I think you hit it on the head. It's taking the different outlook was the missing piece. Again, there's a disconnect in most hotels. A hotel usually, from my experience, makes one of two choices. If we're going to keep it in house, it goes to the youngest person in the building, right? They're like, Instagram, TikTok, you're going to post on our social media now, and when you really think about it, some of that makes sense. Okay, the young person probably knows this stuff, but I mean, think about it. Most of these hotels are $1 million plus assets. You're going to trust the marketing to somebody, and not even that they're young, but you haven't trained them, right? They don't, if they don't understand. I mean, I look at P&Ls all the time. I look at budgets all the time, right? So I know if just the revenue portion could be some of these hotels 8, 9, 10, $19 million. This is a lot of money that we're responsible for. And the social media piece or any of the marketing is crucial to making sure you hit those numbers. And the issue is you have your website. Everybody knows you've got to invest in your website. Everybody knows you invest in your email marketing. But we haven't yet grasped the fact that social media should be right there next to them. There's so many people, everybody here who's watching and who will see this video is on at least one form of social media. I can guarantee you that. So it's such an untapped market. And the agent, like I said, on the agency side, if you go the agency route, you're paying people to post on behalf of your hotel that may not understand your hotel. The gap typically starts right at the beginning. It's like, well, who's your guest? And the hotels weren't really providing agencies with that info because we're all so busy. And I understand why. Where every hotel is understaffed and probably has been since the beginning of time. I don't think I've ever been at a hotel that was like, yeah, we're good right now. We got everybody we need. You know, I've never heard a GM say that. So you're paying an agency with the hope that they're just going to handle this and you don't have to worry about it, and you just get a report from them every month. The issue, like I said before, is most of them generically don't understand hotels. They haven't really worked in hotels, and they certainly don't understand it to a level of somebody like me who's worked in a hotel for 20 years, right? So the missing piece, to your question, is how do you take content to showcase your hotel in a way that's going to get that follower not only like the content, engage with it, but want a book. And for me, we see the proof in the pudding with our clients. Ultimately, it's, website clicks, and I can tell you 50-60% of them go straight to the book now page. So I can confidently say we're sending people to your website and they're booking
Mhm.
rooms. But even if you go down that funnel, if you just look at comments, we'll post a nice reel or a great photo, and it's working when people make a comment. Hey, we're going to be there to celebrate our anniversary in 2 months. Can't wait. My favorite hotel in New York City. Or they're tagging their friends that they're traveling with and getting excited about they're coming to the hotel a few months from now. That's when it's working. And if everyone on my team has hotel experience and hospitality experience, so we can engage with these followers and those comments on behalf of the hotel as people who understand how to speak
We'll
to,
understand it.
yeah, who understand it. And when they have questions, hey, what time is check in, check out? What size are the rooms? Do you have pullouts? We get all this information, and now we can just act on behalf of your hotel. So that's really that missing piece where a lot of agencies, they don't know how to bridge that gap, and it's not through any fault of their own. They just don't have the experience.
That's a good one. See, and you're asking these questions, and it's leading to other questions, and that's the type of
Yeah, let's do
conversations
it.
I like. Okay, so my next question is going to be based on what you just said, where that missing piece.
Mhm.
A lot of hotels deal with PR companies or marketing firms that may not even be in the same city or destination. They can be
Mhm.
like I'm in LA or we're in LA, and the PR company is in New York. They've never been
Right.
out here. They don't know the seasonality or whatever or lack of seasonality here in LA, right?
Right.
So how there is a disconnect between that because there's a lot.
Mhm.
The more I talk to people in hotels, the more they're doing social media, but they're not doing social media on property. They're doing social media remote with somebody that's in another state that's never been at a hotel,
Right.
never been to that particular hotel. What, first of all, why is that? And second, how do we change that mindset that
Mhm.
there's people that are like yourself, like myself, or whatever that are out here doing these things that can benefit a hotel far greater than a agency. And I'm not trying to badmouth any agency or anything like that,
Right.
but this is the conversation we're having, so I'm going to bring it up, okay? Because that's what the
Right.
platform is for to
Mhm.
spark some conversation, and that's what we're doing here. So why do you think there's such a disconnect with that, and why are we putting so much money into these agencies? And to be quite frank, they're not doing a good enough job of promoting these particular hotels
Yeah.
that they're repping.
Well, it's a quick fix for most hotels. As I was saying before, very few hotels are going to have the budget to just dedicate somebody to marketing slash social media. Even if you do give it to somebody in house, that person most of the time is going to have a different role. They're in sales or they're in front desk. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if you do have the funds to just give it to somebody specifically, give it to an agency. Now, doing it remotely is not necessarily a bad thing. And this, again, is kind of where my hospitality and revenue management experience comes in handy because I've worked on property and I've worked remote. And I can tell you, in both cases, I'm at the hotel. You have to know the property, you have to know the market. If we're going back to the revenue days, I can effectively sell a hotel without knowing it, without knowing what it looks and feels like, what the market's like, where these people coming from. I'll probably upset a lot of people with this because especially employees now, but I used to like doing the lobby lizard, you know, and they'd be like, "Oh, our GM gonna bring it back," you know. We just got rid of that, man. Are you talking? He's listening, Uh, but I used to enjoy it because I get when you speak to people, I got an understanding of okay, this person came into town for like I used to work at a hotel in the Upper East Side, New York, and it's a very weird market because it's sort of close to like just over the bridge from Queens, and far enough from the main parts. There's not a lot going on there. Our biggest accounts were hospital accounts because there were big hospitals up there and it was people coming in to visit family and that were in the hospital and stuff like that. And you get that when you speak to people in the lobby or you say, hey, here's somebody with a different accent. Where were you coming in from? Hey, well, we just flew in from Europe where we're going down to Times Square, but this hotel was super convenient from the airport. Those are the little things that you get when you're in and around the property. You're not going to get that if you can be remote, but you can't always be remote. You've got to come visit the hotel. You've got to see it and feel it. And I take that same mentality to our social media. I mean, like you said, I'm here in LA. A couple of my main clients are in New York City. I go see them every so often. And every time I go back, I make sure to pop by the hotel, see what's new, see what's happening. I know what the hotel looks like. I know what it feels like. So that way I can we can now effectively tell that story on our social media. We can visualize and tell a guest, hey, when you come into the hotel, you make a left to go to this elevator if you're staying on these floors. But there's some elevators around the other corner. If you're staying on the lower floors, it will save you time. The restaurant is right behind the front desk. If you go to the right, we have a nice little sitting area. We can do those things because we've been there and seen it and felt it and know what it looks like. So there's nothing wrong with remote, but if you're a hotel that's looking for an agency and they are remote, I would insist on market visits every so often, at least once a quarter, or whatever they can do. But something, if they don't know your hotel, you couldn't effectively revenue manage it, sell it remotely, and you couldn't do it on social media effectively either.
I agree. I remember just from my own experience. I was a director of sales and marketing and became a general manager at the same hotel. And we had a PR company, okay, a PR company that was doing things. I don't even remember where they were. They weren't in New York. They were in the Midwest somewhere. Okay, let's just say they were in the Midwest somewhere, and they had never been to Los Angeles at all. And it was important for me to be on these calls, right? Because they would do ownership calls or we had a management company. So the ownership would be on there, management company would be on this conference call, whatever, in this PR company. And basically we discussed this. It was just so crazy as I'm thinking about it now, is that we're discussing, well, we need you to send us photos of your hotel or what's going on in the area and things like that. And one thing that I said, just similar to what you just said, I said, well, can't you come out here and take a look and see exactly what you're, helping us with? What is this product? What does it look like? I mean, yeah, I can tell you anything, but you need to come and kind of feel it and see what's going on and understand, the freeways and how long it takes to get here and all that kind of stuff. I mean, just the different little idiosyncrasies of that particular location or that hotel, right? And they looked at me like I had 2-3 heads. I'm like, what? They thought I was wrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I was out of pocket. I'm like, well, I said no. And I hear the same thing today, right? So I'm kind of about six years removed from being on property now. So, but I still consult or had conversations with a lot of directors of sales and marketing throughout the nation. They call me, ask me questions about certain things. And one thing that's still prevalent is that they're using, and I'm not saying it's always a bad thing that you're using a PR company that's located somewhere else, but it is a bad thing that they never come out here and take a look. And it is definitely a bad thing if you're the director of sales and marketing and you're not on those calls with that PR company letting them know what's going on or seeing what's going on or giving them the lay of the land. You still have to have a seat at the table, regardless if it's a conference call or you're at a boardroom table in real life or in person. You have to have a seat at the table, because at the end of the day, the success or failure of that hotel from the sales and marketing is your responsibility, right? So
exactly. Yeah. I mean, like anything else, it's a relationship, right?
Yeah.
And if this was to happen on a dating site, where you had a relationship with somebody through a dating site and they never came to see you, they call that catfishing. Okay. we got whole shows about that, right? So make sure they're willing to come see you. You know they're real.
That is a good one. That is a good one. Oh my God. Hey, we're on with Calvin Tilokee with Revpar Media. We're having a conversation about Revpar. I mean, we're having a conversation about revenue and PR companies and things like that, and how to get around something, not get around it, but how to embrace them, how to, we got to treat them like clients, internal or external clients, just like we would treat anyone else, right? So we have to have these conversations with them. We have to have a seat at the table. If it's on a Zoom call or if it's in person, we have to have, those conversations or those relationships. I see a couple of comments. I see, hello, Russell and Calvin from Paula C. I appreciate you,
Hey.
Paula C. Please feel free to make your comments online. I mean, so I can see them there. I just happen to be looking, at my phone at the same time. But make sure you just go ahead and make the comments. If you're on LinkedIn, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and please make those comments so we can see those in real time, and I can put those on the screen as well as I'm having this conversation with Calvin. So let's say real quick. Okay, so as far as you being the CEO of and founder of RevPar Media, what are some of the trends that you see that are shaping the hospitality industry today?
Some of the trends. Well, people need to be, I think we touched on it a bit earlier in the conversation. If you're, when you were talking about how revenue managers typically would just in the office and we just forecast budget and then we leave, that's not going to work for much longer. Um, Fortunately, as I kind of touched on in my background, I started out at the front desk. I went to hotel school. I've done housekeeping and purchasing and F&B. So I've been in pretty much every department except engineering and night audit. And don't nobody want me fixing anything. Just ask my wife. So we could scratch that one off. That was a good move, So, but I've never been that kind of a dorm. I was not the kind of person that was just, I'm in the office here. I'm going to oversell you, and good luck, right? In those cases where we did need to oversell, you communicate with front desk. Here's the situation. Here's who has rooms. Because I've been there. I've walked people. I know what that feels like, right? So, number one, I think you just kind of gotta those kind of revenue managers are not going to be successful in this new age of hospitality for not only that reason, but we've ever since the pandemic and all these hybrid roles, people learned and companies learned that, hey, we could get one person to do three jobs. And unfortunately, that's not really going away. On the As it pertains to revenue managers, I don't necessarily disagree with it either, because kind of the conversation we were just having, if you're in revenue, you need to be in touch with the marketing pieces. You need to be in touch with PR and social and website. You got to understand all that stuff. And I was always shocked by speaking to certain clients where, hey, we do the digital marketing for hotels and the dorms never join the call. Why would you not want to know how the website's performing? Why would you not want to know where you're getting the most clicks? What pages are getting the most clicks? How long they're spending on a certain part of the page? The boutique hotel I was working at, that to me was fascinating, and we made a real impact because we realized that we got the most clicks not on Book Now or not on any of our pictures, but that little banner right at the top. We got 80% of our clicks were going right here. So we said, you know what? We're going to change that banner. Instead of a promo, we're going to send it straight to best available rate. And guess what happened? Bookings went up, ADR went up. I don't know that if I'm not on that digital marketing call, if I'm not on that every month and seeing. And then now we see the trends that the clicks didn't go down. They stayed consistent. But now we were sending them to a higher rated segment, a higher rated booking, and we made more money. It's like,
Wow.
how do you not want to know this stuff? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And a revenue manager today is going to have to be prepared to be more of this, commercial revenue management, which is what they're calling it. Be involved in the marketing, be involved in, digital PR, because all of this stuff works together. I mean,
Hmm.
I could get on the soapbox about hotels in the general. Everything works together, and this silo stuff has got to stop. Um, that's that's another conversation, but that's how this is going to change. That is not going anywhere, and that's actually a piece I agree with, because I think you need to be a much more well-rounded revenue manager in today's hospitality than years ago.
I agree. I agree. It's all about yeah, embracing the technology that's out there that's given us.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more tools out there for us marketing wise. And like you said, everyone needs and I keep mentioning using the same term. you need to have a seat at the table. You need to demand that you're there, right?
Hmm.
But some, if you're old school, and I hate even using that term. If you're old school, then maybe you don't get it, you don't understand, whatever. But you have to be entrenched in what's going on today. We're not worried
Yeah.
about what happened, 20 years ago. I mean, it's great that you have that experience 20 years ago, and we're moving forward.
Yeah.
But you got to change with the times, and I think that's the problem that I face a lot of times is people are still where they were 20 years ago. And the industry, I mean, can be like that. I just look at
Yeah.
new technology that's coming on that's been out for years, but it's still not being pushed. And I'll just say, mobile
Hmm.
check-ins or mobile keys and things like that. Yeah, because of COVID, it's
Yeah.
now we know we're more aware of it. But I still don't see things that are being pushed. That's still not being pushed like through social media. Like, hey, stay with us. Use mobile check-in or use
Hmm.
the keyless entry and things like that. I mean, I know about it because I travel a lot, right? But
Right.
to the novice traveler, you don't see that. It's not being pushed as far as social media is concerned. And if it's like a
Hmm.
new tool, if it's a new toy, let people know that it's a new toy. Show them
And
how it works.
that's exactly it. And most agencies would never even think about that, right? Like the example I gave before, about the elevators, we did that for one of our clients because we kept getting complaints in the direct messages about the elevators. Oh, how long is it to wait or whatever? And we'd respond, we'd follow up with the hotel. And once I stayed at the property, I left the hotel to get something to eat, and I came back, and the line was like wrapped around. I was like, "What is going on?" Ask the front desk. He'd be like, "No, this is pretty normal because people don't know that there's another elevator on this side." And I don't work at the hotel, but I'm like, "So shouldn't you tell them something about it?
Yes,
You're standing right
exactly.
here, you know." The line wrapped back around to the front desk. Don't you just self preservation? Get them out of your face. I'm saying, just tell them, hey, if you're staying on floors 3 to 9, you could go this way. You know, but I don't work at the hotel, so I'd say anything. But what I did was make a video, and I made a video of walking in the hotel, going to the left, which everybody goes, and then going to the right. And I presented it like, hey, did you know about our secret elevator? And if you're staying on these floors, you don't need to wait in line, you can go this way. And we posted it, and within a week we got feedback from the hotel saying, you know what, we see less people hanging out, we see less of a line, we see more people going that way,
Wow.
because we identified a need, a pain point of
Mhm.
the guest,
Mhm.
and just presented that through social media. Most agencies are not going to know to do that. They'll
Mm.
answer the question and just keep it moving, right? Again, being somebody who's worked in hotels 20 years, I understand how frustrating that is for everybody, for the
Oh yeah.
guest, and then you constantly getting complaints. That's going to hit your TripAdvisor. That's going to be, it's a mess. If we have 17,000 people on this page, which we do, many of whom have stayed or looking to stay, whatever, we could use that platform to educate them. Now we've kind
Exactly.
of minimized that problem.
Exactly. Exactly. And make it fun. I mean, make it a fun video. It could be funny or
Right.
whatever. But it's we have to do something. We just can't let it go and just
Right.
assume that it's going to correct itself because a lot of times and it's going to build up frustration is what's going to happen and it's going to, like you said, it's going
Right.
to hit that TripAdvisor and then now you got another issue. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
now you got to respond to this and respond to that. So instead of
Hmm.
having to respond, let's just reach out. Let's see if there's issues within our operations and try to correct those problems and
Yeah.
and have fun with it, like I said. So
Yeah. And use those
um
platforms as a tool to help your hotel. It's not we're not here to just tick a box, and that's where the approach typically is. There's so much untapped potential on your social media pages. They can be used in that way to help the day to day.
wow, that's dude, that's heavy right there. That's heavy. Okay. All right. All right. Redpar Media plays a unique role in the hospitality sector. Okay. Could you elaborate on the core mission of your company and what sets you apart from others in the market?
Yeah, well, our mission is to teach hotels the power of social media. If if we get a client that understands, okay, I've invested in a hotel and digital marketing, so we know we've got to do our SEO, we've got to maximize our keywords and get all that PPC and all of that stuff in line. Everybody knows that now. Everybody knows you need email marketing. How many how many people still check emails, right? But we still invest money in it because there is a market for that. I mean, I still got my old AOL that I built back in like 1998, right? Same email address. When I go to a hotel, I go to a store, and I don't want you hearing from me. Send it to AOL, right?
Mm.
I get the notification if it looks interesting and I need it at that point. I might open it, but just go over there. But we still invest money in that because it's necessary, right? We know we have to do marketing for OTAs or TripAdvisor and have these links up there. Your social media needs to be in that funnel. And if I could get hotels to understand how important that is, again, if we go back to the pandemic and, hotels were cutting marketing budgets at that point, it's like that's actually when you wanted to spend more money because what were we doing if not sitting on your cell phone all day during the pandemic?
Mm.
You couldn't do anything else, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And it's not quite that saturated right now, but everybody's on Instagram, everybody's on Facebook or some form of social media every single day. Most people watching this video are going to watch it on their phones, right?
Exactly. That.
People do everything on their phones and going kind of piecing in the tech conversation we were just having, where how could you not have a mobile check, at least as an option, right? I haven't been to a bank to deposit a check in ages. I get a check and it goes to my account. Done. Right? We do all of these things on our phones, and yet you get
Yeah.
to a hotel and it's like, let me get your ID and registration and sign this and click here. And there at least needs to be an option to not do that,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes.
you've got a generation of travelers who don't know. They didn't work at the hotel when you had that knuckle buster, the credit card
Exactly.
machine. They don't know about that, right? We can still do that because I've been there. I know what that feels like. The old dot matrix printer. We've been through that. They don't know what that looks like. They do everything on their phone, and then you get to a hotel and it's like, okay, well, I need your ID. I need you to fill this out and by hand. There has to be more of an embrace of the fact that most people do things on their phones now, and that includes booking rooms. We do mobile promos all the time. Don't you think that they might? How does that not click? Where you say, yeah, maybe they'll see this on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok
Exactly.
or one of the many social media platforms that they may be on, right?
Exactly.
If we can get hotels to understand, treat Instagram, because Instagram is the number one interest on Instagram is travel. That's your
Mhm.
number one travel platform. So every hotel should be on Instagram. If you treat that the way you treat email and digital marketing and all these other things, you will see success. You can grab an audience very quickly. You can engage with them. You can show them exactly what your hotel looks like. I always go back to what I call the TripAdvisor effect, right? We all know the stats. 85% of people will go to TripAdvisor and check reviews before they book with you.
Mhm.
The reason they do that is because they know your website is Photoshop. And it should be. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. You put your best foot forward on your website. But the reason they go to Yelp and TripAdvisor and all of these different things is because they want to see what it really looks like. They want to see traveler photos. Okay, yeah, you're saying your suite is huge. We know you're going to take it from the best angle with the best lighting to make it look as big as possible. But I want to see the guy that just stayed last week, what his picture in that suite looks like. And that's why they go to TripAdvisor and Yelp and these other pages. But now you could do that on your Instagram page. So instead of them going to TripAdvisor, they go to
Yeah.
your Instagram page and then they see a cell phone tour of the room, because this is what I do for a lot of my clients. We're going to do it on the cell phone because we want people to see what it really looks like. And then they see that, okay, wow, yeah, they are telling the truth. This room is huge. This would work for my family. So now instead of them being on TripAdvisor or getting that and saying, okay, now I'll just book because I'm here, they're not going to go back to
Uh-huh.
your website. They're not, and people don't take extra steps. If they've taken the step to get on an OTA, to see the real pictures, they're just going to book there. But if you put it
Mm,
on Instagram and now they see the real deal and they know they can get the real deal there, like we did with the elevators, okay, yeah, your website's right here. I'm going to click and I'm going to go and book now. You don't pay commission on that now,
wow.
you
That's
know?
that is great. Wow. That
Yeah.
man, you just the last couple of minutes, you just gave a lot of tools, a lot of little nuggets there that I didn't even
Yeah.
think of. I mean, the reason why people go to TripAdvisor and things like that. I mean, that's heavy right there. I like that. I like that. Hey, you know what? We're out of time. But real quick, I mean, it's funny how an hour goes so darn quick when you're having fun and
Time flies
and
when
you're
you're having fun, man. Yeah.
there you go. There you go. But we have to have you back on here for a part two. But I always ask this one question, and this will be the last question.
Mhm.
For new people coming into the hospitality industry, what advice would you give them?
I mean, I think my advice is always consistent, but just learn as much as possible. Always be open to learning, kind of like we touched on before. You don't want to be the revenue manager or any role that is only worried about your role. Um, Everything works together in this industry. Maybe some other industries are different, but anybody who's been in a hotel for any amount of time will understand that I can't be successful as a revenue manager unless sales is effective, unless front desk is effective, unless housekeeping is effective. This all works together, and vice versa. There's no rooms to clean if we don't sell them, right? There's no revenue for me to manage if sales doesn't bring it in. But I could this could be a whole other podcast, but I'll keep it try to keep it as short as possible. But that's been my biggest pet peeve with the industry that I've seen in my couple decades in the industry is from a leadership standpoint, we don't do a good enough job of training and we don't do a good job at all of cross training. And I mean, I make a lot of jokes about all different kinds of, all the different departments. And you see it a lot where there's this infighting between different roles because we haven't done a good enough job of helping people understand what the other guy's doing. I give sales a lot of crap. Always, they're always out to lunch and happy hours and this and that, but that is a hard job. Anybody who's ever had to sit in front of someone, cold call them or try to sell something should really understand how difficult that is. And the responsibility that comes with that look, if you don't open up this funnel for us, nobody's working. This talk about front desk is the first person to touch the guest and is most important. Everybody's the most important, and everybody should feel that they're the most important, because if sales doesn't do what they do, we got nothing. Nobody has anything else to do. If we don't, as revenue, maximize what sales brings in, we may not hit what we need to hit. We may not be able to pay people. That boss that I told you about, who taught me revenue management, something she said I never forgot. She said, if we don't do our jobs, people lose theirs.
Mm,
And I never forgot that. And I've always taken that very seriously when I work. If we are not hitting budget and we're not hitting the forecast, people get laid off. That's not a it's not a joke. And
exactly.
I don't know that other people in operations or any other department would understand the pressure that's on revenue or sales to make that happen. And it's our job as an industry to make sure that people understand that. So if you're coming in now, understand nobody may teach it to you. Like your boss, your GM is probably not going to say, make sure to go to each department before you start in yours to understand how this works. I was fortunate. That happened to me once in all the years I've been working in hotels. One hotel onboarded me properly that way. But I'm also the kind of person, I'll go to the different departments. I also went to school and I learned a lot these different departments. So I have an understanding of what everybody's
Hmm.
doing. We don't do a good enough job of that. So if you're not going to get it from your leaders, most likely, go out and seek it yourself. If you started at the front desk, where most of us do, spend a day or spend a few minutes with reservations, understand what they're doing to put those bookings in the system so you could have an easy an easy check-in. It has the notes, that's got the billing set up correctly. That I've managed reservations for years, and a team. There's a lot that goes into that, especially if you're in a big group house and these kind of things. But if you don't understand that, you take it for granted, and that's just life. If we don't understand what the next guy's doing across the way, we just take for granted that that job looks easy. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Go do it for a
Exactly.
day. Go do it for a week, and let's see how easy it is.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, maybe it is easy for you. Maybe you do like it, and now you've got a different career path. But until walk a mile in another guy's shoes, all of that
Exactly.
stuff. If you've got to go and get the information yourself, don't miss the resume meetings. That's where you actually will learn a lot of this stuff. The other departments will give their perspectives on this group. Hey, they're checking in at this time. We're going to come out and greet them. They're going to go straight into the ballroom and da da da. But if you're sitting in your office, whatever office that is, and you're not part of those conversations, you think your role is the only thing that's going on. And you couldn't be more wrong about that.
Wow.
I told you, man. I was on my soapbox. I could do that. We could do a whole show on that one. Don't get me started.
No, you know what? I'm glad you took the time to say it and put it that way, because a lot of people don't understand that. Exactly what you just said. Everybody, and you mentioned this earlier, like people think they're in a silo, right? Basically, where they are is the most important thing. They don't look at anything outside of that wall, outside of that silo. Okay, you just hit it right on the head. Some of the issues that we have within the industry is that when we're first onboarded, we don't know which departments relate. Why do I need this department? How does this department relate to us, or how do they help us? How do we, work together? That kind of thing. It's not taught. I mean, this is basically you learn through if you have issues or whatever. It's never anything that's pleasant that you learn, like, oh my God, okay, I didn't understand that. Now I understand how that works, right? It's always through some issue, some challenges that you had to deal with. And now I understand why, engineering is a big part of, doing PMs to a room. You know what I mean? It's not just about, or general clean. We're in a general clean a room. Well, you got to have engineering in there as well, because they have to maintain the HVAC and make sure the water and the pipes are working, all that kind of stuff. We don't think about that stuff, right? And how long it's going to take to turn over a room, and why you can't have this room back yet. You know what I mean? The front desk or whoever, right? So, yeah, that makes plenty sense. And we got to do another. I mean, like next week, if you have time next week, I've never done this before, right? So, if you have time next week, we can get on like an IG live or something like that, and we can go over some of the things that you talked about. You talked about cross training, leadership. Understanding other departments, things like that. Being onboarded. I mean, I think those things are important, because we're both in this industry. We've both been in this industry a heck of a long time, and obviously we both have a passion for it, right? Because if we didn't have a passion for it, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now. So I just think the stuff that you're saying is right on time. Is important that a lot of people hear this, especially people that are coming in the industry that may not. They may be on the fence about coming in, maybe they've heard some things, or maybe they don't know a lot what's going on. Because I'll be honest, when I first came in the industry, I came out of a hotel school too, right? I never worked in a hotel before. I'd never worked in a hotel before. So I was like from, ground zero or less than zero, right? I started off as a housekeeping manager trainee, but I didn't know how all the departments related. But being a manager, you kind of had to figure that out, right? But I remember just people coming in after that, and you're like, or maybe just, not just, but people that they worked at the front desk, or they were our housekeepers, or they worked as servers, and they didn't really understand the big picture and how other departments gave you other opportunities to work in there. Right. But if you didn't understand how everything kind of fit together, because everything's a puzzle, right? If how does this fit with this? How do I get more from them? And how do I give them more? That kind of thing. So So I'm excited now, right? I can't even
Yeah.
talk. I'm so darn excited. So, but no, thank you. I appreciate you coming on today. We definitely got to get you back
Absolutely.
on. If it's next week, that'd be good. If we can do, like I said, an IG live in the interim, that would be great as well. I just want to reach
Yeah.
as many people as we can, with this
You
because I
know
think it's
what?
important.
Next week, next Tuesday, I'll be in Vegas at the Expedia conference. That might be a fun IG live to do. I could find a spot at the conference. There'll be a lot of people around, and yeah, we could continue the conversation.
Sounds good. Well, I thank you so much for the time you gave me today or gave us. Um, I want to thank everybody that came on. Well, I saw Paula C. I don't see any comments come across my screen, but I did see Paula C. making some comments on LinkedIn. So I do appreciate everybody that's out there on LinkedIn. I see the numbers, but no one actually wanted to come on. I don't know why that is, but I mean, that's what this is all about. It's all about engagement and interaction. You can always ask questions, so feel free to just to say hey or just, let us know that you're there. I do appreciate that. This is On Air with Russell of Hotels. This comes on every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. So we'll do this again next week. Calvin will be out next week, but I'll be here, so don't worry about that. So, I mean, we're always going to be here. But no, I appreciate you coming on and, and
Thanks for having me.
giving us time and giving me time that you gave me a couple of weeks ago when we went to lunch and kind of talked about things that you did and kind of way you helped me out as far as you mentioned some things on Instagram and things that maybe I should be doing and stuff like that. And I appreciate that. And I take that stuff. I don't take it lightly that people give me advice on some of the things because I don't think I'm too big or too proud to take advice because that's what it's all about, right? And if we can help each other, I appreciate that. So thank you again for coming on.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. It was a great time.
No, and you have the parting word. So if you got anything else to say about either RevPar Media or you or the industry, it's on you. You got the next 20 seconds.
All right. Well, hey, this has been a great time with Russell Hotels. Great conversation. Always love talking hospitality. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Calvin Tilokee. Check out my website, refparmedia.com. We will be redesigning that pretty soon. So hopefully you might get to see the new site here in a couple of days. But yeah, any hotels out there that are looking for marketing, digital marketing, graphic design, videos, social media, of course, we do it all. I've got a great team behind me that is experts in their respective fields, and we are ready to help you maximize and get more out of your social media efforts and investment.
Thank you so much, sir. And I want to apologize to everybody. We did go a little over 14 minutes. That's okay. It's my show. We can do that. So no, I appreciate that because it's good information. When there's good information, time doesn't matter. Okay. I know we got to stop at some point, but if if we go over every now and then, that's quite all right. So, but thank you so much, Calvin, once again for coming on.
Absolutely.
And thank everybody that came on or that's going to listen to it, either listen to it live or on the replay. We appreciate you. So until next week, or actually till tomorrow, because I do a daily check-in tomorrow, so with Russell of Hotels as well. So until tomorrow, you guys have a great day and a great week. And thank you again for joining On Air with Russell of Hotels.
Thank you for joining On Air with Russell of Hotels. Please tune in every Tuesday at 1 p.m. as we talk to other hospitality professionals. Your feedback is important to Russell. Feel free to email him at russell@russellofhotels.com with any questions or suggestions. Until next time, try not to be a person of success. Rather, become a person of great value.